Thank you for joining us. This is Paul Wilson.
And Chris Emke.
And you're listening to the Diesel Performance Podcast. Chris, it's been another busy week at Calibrated Power, home of Duramaxtuner. Some wild stuff going on, huh?
Yeah, you look in the shop, shop's pretty busy. The guys, the techs in the shop are doing their thing. R&D on Roxor stuff, the intercooler and intercooler piping, we're doing some stuff there. The guys back in the turbo department, 6-liter turbos, older 5.9 second-gen style turbos, 6.7 Cummins turbos. Those are probably the newer ones on the docket getting released. There's some other stuff that I'm not going to talk about because I don't want to get my rear lit up. And then, the sales department, customer service department, your guys' department, everyone's busy. We're kind of starting to see that trend upward and everything kind of becoming a little busier and staying on top of it. And then we have a cold-ass day today, nonetheless.
Dude,
so
brutal.
It's wild.
Yeah, Midwest weather, man. It was 40 2 days ago.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like 35 negative tomorrow, too.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and then people wonder why they have pneumonia and stuff. It's wild.
I know it's been busy over here. I know it's been busy for both of our sponsors. That's Exergy Performance and WC Fab. I was actually speaking with the guys over at Exergy pretty recently, and they were just mentioning to me about how crazy they are with keeping up with the CP4 pumps for the 6.7 Fords.
Yeah. It's funny, because we had just had this conversation about they offer fuel system savers for the Ford, and pumps for the Fords, and reaching out to my dealer network, hey guys, we have this, and we're really big in the Fords, yada yada yada. So they're actually starting to move out.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of similarities. We've talked in prior podcasts of the LML and the Ford, so it's a nice little caveat add on to their lineup. So
absolutely,
it's not new to them. It's new to us. So,
and then WC Fab, they're crazy as always, keeping up with all of the orders piling in, and all of the custom colors too. That's something that we always talk about, is their amazing powder coating facility and their amazing fabrication facility. It's impressive.
Yeah, one of the new mailers that Dustin, one of the sales and marketing guys over there, sent over, they're actually doing stocking now. They're stocking parts in the Kingsport Gray and the WC Fab Red.
Yeah.
So, diff covers, traction bars, little miscellaneous add-ons, intakes, things like that, intercooler tubes, they have them ready to go. So really cool to see how, a couple of years ago it was a long wait, and they know right now, with tax season amongst us, you see right around the holidays, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, tax season, the wait time gets a little more because, people get bombarded with orders. And they're like, hey, guys, we have this stuff on the shelf.
Yeah.
So really cool.
Genius. I love it. It's going to be a big one. Well, hey, guys, without any further ado, we have a really exciting episode put together today. One of the things Chris and I have talked about, probably for months now, is putting together an episode around all the shit that DIYers do wrong. And Chris and I, both being DIYers at some point in our past, we've done shit wrong, too. So this is by no way an indictment to our listeners or to people who make these mistakes. But these are really, really common mistakes that we see in the shop. Now, Chris and I both don't work in the shop.
No.
We work at desk jobs because we're lazy.
But we do answer phones, and these are questions and concerns that come in on the daily.
Sure. Way to make yourself sound important. We actually brought in an expert, Jeremy Garnett. Jeremy is one of our lead technicians in the shop over here at Duramaxtuner. Jeremy, how the hell are you?
Good. How are you guys today?
We're doing great.
It would be better if I wasn't staring at Paul.
Jeremy, give us a little bit of your background, man. What's your experience around trucks and troubleshooting?
Started off when I was about 9 years old and was pushing a broom in a shop, and now I'm 38 years old and still doing it. So been around it my whole life, seen a lot of do's, seen a lot of don'ts, and seen a lot of fuck-ups.
And you have like electronic diag and fabrication skills. I've seen you work on stuff like that in the past. I mean, you're well-rounded, to say the least.
Yeah, when it comes to just putting things together, figuring things out. Example right now, I'm making a 47 RE, fitting a LB7 truck. So it's
so Dodge Trans into a Duramax chassis.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet.
What could go wrong?
Nothing, Paul.
It went together perfect.
Yeah, it actually looks really nice. Having the ability to go check it out, I mean, hats off to you, man.
Oh, yeah. No, work came out very well. It's just trying to make, neutral safety switch work and reverse lights and make sure it starts in park. And not
all the little
drive.
things.
Right. All those little details to button up, no big deal. No big deal.
Wait, so you can't just buy the swap kit and just put it in?
No.
Oh, no.
But it comes with an install kit.
Yeah.
You're done.
You got instructions, right?
No.
Oh, no.
There's a YouTube video, though.
Yeah,
Like a standard mechanic, he jumps on YouTube and figures it out. So
you
no
get one
big
of those.
deal.
You see that switch up there? Jeez.
Okay, well, we did bring Jeremy in today because he is an expert with this stuff. I know he's helped us out with troubleshooting stuff for customers in the past and things of that nature. I know one of the things that I've seen commonly guys do wrong at home is understand what a MAF sensor is or how it works or which orientation it goes. Can you talk a little bit about that, Jeremy? What have you seen and what are some of the common solutions for those common problems?
Well, a MAF sensor, reads the grams per second of how much airflow is going through the air filter into the truck. A lot of guys actually put them in backwards.
Yeah, very common.
That's what we see.
There's actually an arrow on it, and then they wonder why the truck's running wrong and things like that. Mass airflow sensors do go bad, then the truck's gonna smoke heavily, things like that.
You see times like oil filters and that debris getting on there.
Exactly.
And things like that.
Dirty air filters. I mean, we'll throw off a MAF reading huge. Clean air filters, the cheapest and best thing you could ever do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's such a no-brainer how much of our list today has to do with maintenance.
Yeah.
Right? Just like guys just skipping over simple maintenance. MAF, Chris, give us some of the symptoms customers call in with when they have a problem with the MAF sensor. What's the most common things they tell us?
Yeah, I think, usually guys will call in not knowing that they have a MAF issue.
Right.
And it boils down to truck not being responsive. And then you kind of hone in into that one being, well, does the truck produce any smoke? Listeners out there, if the truck's smoky and not responsive, you have other problems. If the truck is not smoky, no smoke, and not responsive, chances are the truck's not getting the proper fueling. Right. Well, why isn't the truck getting the proper fueling? Well, that's because the MAF isn't reading the proper airflow coming in a Duramax or like in a 6.7 Power Stroke. Air through the MAF is how the engine fuels.
Right.
So
I think one of my keys to knowing I was dealing with a MAF issue has always been when somebody calls in and says, "Yeah, it's not responsive." I say, "Well, does it ever feel responsive? Like, does all the power come on?" They're like, "Well, yeah."
At like 2,000,
okay,
2,300.
Right. Does it all seem to come on at once like a freight train? Like you're running, it won't go anywhere, and then it slams like a big turbo, like a big single turbo hitting. They're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Check your MAF." MAF being in backwards, there's an arrow. Guys still miss it. Easy way I always remember, the filament faces the filter.
Yep.
The filament faces the filter.
But I didn't get no codes.
Sometimes there is.
Sometimes there is. Sometimes there's not.
Well, sometimes there's two filaments, one on each side. Just remember, bigger one goes towards the front.
There you go.
Some aftermarket ones don't have an arrow. Bigger filament goes towards the front.
You got it.
And then the other thing too, just a little caveat on that, guys putting on different air intakes. I'm not, there's a lot of great aftermarket options, and some vendors, they might ever so slightly change the position of the MAF sensor or the inside diameter of that tube that they're putting on. Duramax guys put on them badass 5-inch intakes instead of the 4, like whatever. That changes the reading. The truck has to be rescaled and tuned for that. That changes how the truck fuels. So
100%.
Yeah.
We actually just ran into that case on that twin kit we put on that LML, that emissions compliant twin kit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we had to use a factory air box because the aftermarket.
Yeah. It was reading different. Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
And you see that a lot with the newer, to kind of segment to that, the newer trucks like the 15 Ram or like our 1516 LML twin kit. We utilize the factory air box. The factory air box supplies enough air volume, first off, but we need that because of the factory scaling, to make sure that the truck is fueling properly, not too rich. So,
absolutely. All right, cool, man. Well, I think that one's really good. All right, what's one that you brought to us, Jeremy?
Trans cooler flushing. Whenever you replace a transmission, you got to flush that cooler, man.
What do you mean, bro? I just bought new trans.
Right.
I just shelled out 5 G's on a new trans. What do you mean I got to go do something else?
Yeah,
that's a tough conversation.
It's very tough. But, I mean, we've had, 3 customers in the past 6 months come in, new trans come in, say they have problems. We flush the cooler, we find nothing but garbage. Open the filters.
So walk us through that. So I have a 150,000 mile LBZ, and I put a built Allison transmission in the truck. Okay, I pull the old trans off. I upgrade the lines too. Okay, the factory cooler was fine. Drain the fluid, put the new trans in, upgrade the lines, fill up the fluid, take the truck on the first test drive. Truck drives fine. 500 miles in, truck's banging, bucking. I'm getting solenoid codes. I reach out to the shop like, guys, what the hell?
Yeah.
Right? And this is common. Like,
It's
we
very
see this.
common, yeah.
What generally happens at that point?
Well, all the clutch material is still in the radiator. It's still in the the trans cooler in front of the radiator, and guys don't realize that the stuff just sits in there. I mean, clutch material is very fine. It's very sticky, and it needs to be removed. There's lots of variations way to do that. We here use a hot flush machine, so we flush it out at 180 degrees, but try your best. Just they sell kits at any parts store that you can do it, and just
Can't
try
I just drain the fluid out of my
Right,
trans?
no. Can't. I mean, you got a little bit of shop air. I mean, fluids. I mean, if you don't have a flush machine, you something.
And I've seen some like horrific failures where guy spends money, has the trans put in, they don't do the hot flush or a flush in general. That foreign debris goes back into the trans, takes that trans out. It affects the pump. It affects the valve body. And now you have a trans that's not warrantable because of a foreign debris that was proven by the manufacturer. And it was all because the cooler wasn't flushed. And then they'll go, well, the truck didn't do this before. All right, man. Well, you had a failed trans that had wear, and where does that debris go?
Right.
So, we always stress that. I know with like over at Calibrated Power, any of the transmissions that go out, we always have like a hot flush must, requirement in the paperwork pamphlet. Just like, hey, you know what? It's something that I don't know if I would necessarily think of. Like, after being here and around it, I do.
I'll tell you this. I was just on Facebook, I think today, and I saw a post in one of the forums with a guy who had sold a stock rebuilt trans to a customer who was now asking for a warranty. And he went on to the kid's Facebook page, and there's a picture of a truck, and it says, built motor, LB7, new trans going in, so excited. And the guy's like, yeah, so I sold this guy a stock trans. He didn't flush the cooler. He put a stock converter back on it, and then he put it in a built engine truck.
Yeah.
And now he wants a warranty. So, like, there is a huge misconception over building, rebuilding, trans. What do I do? What is my maintenance? How do I take care of it?
I
remember the first time I put aluminum rims on a vehicle, and 1,500 miles later, the tires damn near fell off because I never went down and retorqued them because nobody told me. Now, you think about it now as an adult, and you're like, oh, shit, everybody knows that. But you don't know that until you're told that. That's just the reality.
No, and I think there's a missed opportunity for education, right? When guys call in, well, the stock trans lasted me 100,000 miles, right? Well, now you have a tuner for the last 10,000 miles. You have this and that as an upgrade. You don't know how the truck was maintained prior because you weren't the original owner, let's say. You have an opportunity to upgrade it ever so slightly to make it just a little bit more durable, so you're going to spend a little bit more money. Well, as you spend a little bit more money and do this, you have to take those extra precautions to making sure that everything's reliable. Trans flushing, cooler upgrade, maybe line upgrade, whatever that looks like. So
yeah, absolutely. I know another really common problem I've run into with customers, Jeremy, is lift pump wiring.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
2 wires. 2 wires.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be one wire.
Yeah.
We just had a guy in a truck in the shop here. The guy was going back and forth with FAS. The pump wasn't working. Tried everything, all the troubleshooting, relays. The wire that tapped the tap wire for the fuse was undone. Done.
Yeah,
it could be something so simple.
So what do you see most commonly with guys messing up the wiring? Is it forgetting just to plug it in? I'd imagine that happens, but that's probably more rare. What do you usually see guys mess up when they run the lift pumps?
Oh, there's a couple different things. There's especially underneath the truck where they, however they mount them.
Yeah.
FAST recommends mounted in the wheel well. That's their kits. A lot of people don't zip tie them, and then they rub up against the frame. Then they arc out, fuses blow, things like that. Then underneath the hood, the wiring harness is just too long.
Yeah.
And it is, instead of just taking 3 seconds to cut the wire, you have to put a connector on it anyways. Instead of just cutting the wire down, 6 inches, they just loop it up and then it just falls, goes into the, could go into the fan, goes around the drive, the steering shaft. I've seen some weird stuff since I've been here. So, and zip ties. I mean, just make it look clean. And people don't do it. They just throw it in there and it's going to work forever. Fuse
It worked
holder.
yesterday.
Exactly. The fuse holder. They just push the fuse down in there, or the relay. It comes with a relay and a fuse holder. They just let them sit there. They don't take the second to put a zip tie around it, or a little push pin into the fender wall, or
A little something.
just something to secure the relay so the relay isn't bouncing around.
Usually, those it's all of those things on one truck, though. It's not one or the other.
Right. Or a guy does a really clean,
Yeah.
perfect job, or it's there's
one or
a
the
name
other.
I want to say, but I can't. But
Yeah, it's every one of those issues.
One of the things that I've seen, and this is like a catastrophic issue, is guys will replace their turbocharger and they'll use like an RTV
oh yeah,
instead of like the factory gasket because maybe they were excited and they didn't have.
Bro, what's the problem? It works.
yeah.
I put it on, it fucking sealed it, and then I fired up the truck and it ran. We're
Yeah.
good.
One of my longtime buddies, he had a Duramax, and he did that, and it cost him a motor.
Oh.
So
Walk us through it, Chris. What goes wrong when you run RTV compared to a gasket?
So you have to gob the RTV right on the surface, and then as you clamp that surface right, tighten, fasten everything down the seal, you see that RTV kind of expand, right?
Well, just as much as that's
it's coming out, it's going in. So what ended up happening in this specific scenario is the turbo drain, right? This is what he was RTVing. So from the turbo to the line, and then from the line to the block, RTV'd both spots, which hindered on oil flow. And it broke down ever so slightly, so then the RTV then got into the engine, right? So the engine was essentially starved for oil.
Yeah.
And he ended up spinning rod bearings and cam bearings.
Oh.
So I mean, this is something that really happens, and he was very okay. Our Paul did a really nice job. So just a little background. We'll get back to the gaskets here in a second. Paul wanted to waste an hour of company time, and he taped up these cool stealth logos, and they're all taped them, by the way, and they're just all falling off. Paul, kudos to you, man. But yeah, no. So you,
I just want to be clear. I am not an interior decorator. Number 2, that did not take an hour. And number 3, they looked great for weeks. It did not fail until Jeremy was here. So it worked fine yesterday. Jeremy showed up, and now it's fucked up. I'm not saying Jeremy did it. I'm just saying it worked until Jeremy was here.
company time. But yeah, you see a lot of that, with the RTV, and he was that person where we didn't have access to the gaskets that day, and he had to have his truck running that day. That was the solution, and that was the outcome.
It's so brutal when things like this happen.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, when it's self-inflicted?
Yeah. like when it's, I know how I'm going to save time.
Yeah.
Like I don't have the patience to wait. I'm going to save myself the time of waiting, and I'm going to take this shortcut. And then here you are with a wildly expensive problem, and also no goddamn truck.
Right.
100%.
So it just hurts. It just hurts to hear it. Jeremy, what's another one you brought to us?
Boost leaks, like missed boost leaks.
Yeah.
Oh, we've never talked about boost leaks on this show.
It's wild to me because I remember back in, it was like 2015, we had a couple of trucks in the shop, back to back to back, running like shit, smoky, this and that. And out of the 3 trucks, 2 of the trucks went to multiple dealers.
I remember this.
And they could not figure out. That's where the whole boost
we
leak
shot
video.
our boost leak test video off of the second truck.
Yes,
that day.
yes, exactly.
I know exactly what
That's
you're
where
talking
that
about.
video resonated from. So guys, if
Was literally at a dealership
Yeah.
15 minutes before it was at our lot. Then it showed up at our lot.
Wow.
Then it showed up at our lot, and we go out and we actually boost test it, and there's a massive boost leak.
So
It was
for any of
real
our
easy to
listeners
find.
that want to watch a video, in our archives, go to Duramaxtuner's YouTube channel, type in how to boost leak or boost leak. Just type in
search
boost
boost
leak.
test.
Boost test, and it'll pop right up. And it was a good video, but that's where all that stemmed from. So
Just as simple as checking the clamps.
Yeah.
An LB7 doing a set of injectors.
Yeah.
You have to remove the, intercooler pipes to get it off. Clamps are just rusty.
Yep.
I touched the clamp with the socket, it breaks.
Yep.
I mean, I boost tested it before, realized
dry
that it was-
rot with the boot and
Exactly.
stuff like that.
It's just simple as looking at them and seeing how rusty and things like that. I mean,
that's like a simple protocol for you guys in the shop, right?
Very simple.
Right before
yeah.
a truck leaves.
I mean, it's I've seen it crazy. I remember when I first started, we had a guy, I want to say with an LB7, Tunes transmission. It was like one of the first transes we had sold. So Tunes, trans, traction bars, a bunch of other little upgrades and all of this. Goes out, rips the truck, calls up, and just bitching up a storm. Truck feels like shit, doesn't have any more power. This thing's smoky. It's a turd. It's got no balls. He comes by. We're like telling him on the phone, like, dude, it sounds like there's a mechanical issue. There's no way. It was fine before I brought it to you. If anything's wrong, you guys messed it up. Shows up, hook up the boost test kit, and there is literally, I'm talking the size of a $50 hole in the intercooler pipe. And you're like, well,
We did that. Yeah.
Well, here-
right. Like, we see the rust around this hole, right? Like, clearly we didn't drill this hole out for extra breathability. Like, this is a problem.
Years ago, this again back in 2015, I had my LB7 Duramax.
Yeah.
And it had an S300 kit on it from WC Fab, and we pulled it off and in favor of a Stealth 64. And we put the Stealth on the truck. We get it on the dyno. Truck makes like 480 horse.
Oh,
The S366 setup, the truck made 597 on the dyno like a year prior. What the hell? Something's hurt. Like, what's going on?
sounds like that dyno needs to get calibrated.
Right. It's the dyno's fault. I blamed Nick. I was like, Nick, your tune's jack, right? Do a boost test with the truck strapped to the dyno. The intercooler was blown out.
Yeah.
And the truck was making boost, but it was escaping.
How many times
Through
have
the
we seen
intercooler.
guys, they're like, I was at a sled pull last night.
Yep.
And then there's a hole the size of a quarter in
Yep.
the bottom of the intercooler they didn't know about.
Yeah.
Or you get the video like there were guys that I sled pulled with this past year. Badass setups. Like on paper, those trucks should have beat me, hands down. Like these trucks had no business in the class I was pulling in.
Yeah.
Right. And
Well, neither
never
did you, but yeah.
never understood why I had more business than them. And I see these week after week, like I'm putting 20, 30 feet on these guys.
Yeah.
And then
I was there for a few of them.
I get a video in my Facebook Messenger, and the guy's like, "Well, I figured out why you've been beating me. Is this bad?" And you just
Just that hiss.
intercooler was one of the tubes and the intercooler was blew out. And I'm like, "Damn, man, like that. You don't realize that. You don't see that.
Sometimes it's gradual.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's you don't lose all of your power in a day. Your truck doesn't go from clean to smoky. It's just gradual, little bit, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're like, God damn, Chris Emke's beating me at anything. So something's wrong.
That's a problem. That's a problem. If you ain't first, you're Chris Emke. What's up?"
Jeremy, I know another one I've dealt with is people misdiagnosing their fuel system. And most commonly what I've seen is them misdiagnosing a low pressure side fuel leak. Have you seen that before? Is that something you run across? And what do you do to actually diagnose the low pressure side of the fuel system?
Well, first, mechanical gauge. Every Duramax has one. Just put a mechanical gauge on it. Make sure that it actually has it. And if it doesn't, then you just you start looking for leaks, air leaks, crack lines, stuff like that. Chevy is really good at cracked lines, right on top of the CP3. Even the line going to the check valve where you can check your low side pressure.
Yeah.
Any of those have a little crack in it, you're going to start losing low side pressure and stuff like that. So.
Sure. Okay, Chris, what are the symptoms guys call in with when they have that type of a problem? What commonly do they describe to you?
Yeah. So what you run into for us is, we did a video years ago, 0087, right?
Oh.
It's one of our more popular videos that we have done. So the DIY guys will watch that video, call in, and think, oh, I buy a $50 valve, and that's the fix.
Right.
Because they have a high side fuel pressure issue, 0087, 0093 or whatever.
P0093.
Those are the two. So guys always direct that towards high pressure. Well, your truck is not going to throw a code for a lack of low pressure if there is an issue. It's only going to be a high pressure reference. So guys will call in, hey, I have high pressure, drop, severe, low fuel rail pressure, blah, blah, blah. I want to buy this valve. Ask a couple key questions, in which way is this truck doing this? Does a truck hold rail pressure for X amount of time drop off? Just these little tidbits, right? And you have mail. And then you fall into this where you have a high pressure issue, but is it truly a high pressure issue, or like Jeremy was saying, it could stem from the low pressure? Collapsed line. I've ran into broken corrugated hose in the sending unit, right itself.
I've had that problem.
Yeah. Or you run into the the fuel filter head, right? Allows air to get into the system.
LB7's a lot of
Yeah,
those.
I mean, you see a lot of that. So you walk guys through checking, your vacuum pressure on your low pressure side if it doesn't have a lift pump, and if it does, then checking it differently. And then once you have that checked out, right, and it's a fairly simple diag. Once you have that figured out, now you know if it's a low issue or if it's a high pressure issue.
My favorite is losing prime.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I lose prime. I lose prime. I have to prime my truck every day. Do you have any ideas? And I always say it's a low pressure side fuel system issue.
But that's not.
I always say no.
Well, I mean, my blue LB7 that I bought last year had that same problem. It was a pump. It was the pump.
That's a more rare result, though,
It is.
right? It's
But
possible.
Again, you have to die. But I also didn't throw any money at that truck until I knew what was going on, because I have the proper resources to know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I can talk a good game. I had my buddy help me.
I was just going to say, you mean you had somebody to ask, right?
Yeah,
Check
I said resources. Yeah, resources. Hey, yo, man, you know what's up here? Yeah.
A good way is a scan tool. I mean, low side pressure, you're going to know if it's going to still build. Look at the scan tool, look at live data, and see if it's actually going to start building high side pressure. Because if you have low side pressure, it won't build high side pressure as fast.
Right.
So then you're going to you'll see a delay in your actual and desired pressures
Because of that.
because of your
the
low side
buildup.
pressure too. Nice. So
Well, learned something new today.
Yeah,
There
why
you go.
not? All right, cool. What else do we got, guys?
Oh man, misdiagnosis. I mean, I helped you with the couple that you read off earlier because we're a team, right? We're a team here, Paul. So that was awesome.
I got one.
All right, hit it.
So we have a
You're such a low life, Chris. Go ahead, Jeremy.
We have a customer with an F350. Comes in, says, "Hey, my truck tows like crap. Inner tire 0 psi.
No.
So tire pressure.
Yep, tire pressure.
Wow. And that's one that's like an odd one,
Dude,
right?
that is
You
some
would
Paul.
never check
That is some Paul Wilson.
That is
Yeah.
something I would show 100% something I would show up into the shop with.
Yeah, outer tire at 50 psi. Standards.
Because I could reach it and check it easily.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, dude,
And
the
I
inner,
could see
the inner
it.
wheel would suck. Like,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
cold as shit out. I
Right.
don't know.
but 0 psi. And the truck guy's like, "Oh, it's not towing very well." Things like that. One side of the truck's at 70 psi. The other truck, one tire's at 50.
That is wild. That's some common sense stuff when the truck's loaded down. Just
That's what I mean.
visual
It's just-
of.
I mean, sitting in the parking lot, you wouldn't see it if it was empty.
Yeah. It's
No,
just-
but if you're saying it tows like shit,
Right.
you would see.
start checking tire pressure.
I guess maybe not. I don't know. I check my tires. Like, I've had such bad luck running over nails on pretty much every wheel tire I buy. So like that, I'm programmed. Every time I walk outside, like, what's tire pressure look like?
My
Loaded or
car
unloaded?
pops up a message that says low tire pressure if
Yeah.
it comes low.
Yeah,
Every
no.
day I go out there, my tire says low pressure. So
Yeah.
Every day.
Jeez, man, I didn't even think of that.
That's a crazy one.
Wow.
Yeah, tire pressure's huge. A lot of guys just don't
Tire
look
pressure
at it.
is huge. I'll tell you, even just on my stupid car, I recently had to put wheels on it. And when I first brought it into the tire shop, the tech came back out and was like literally laughing. This old dude working it, whatever, is like laughing. He's like, "What do you think? How much tire pressure do you think your car is supposed to have?" I'm like, "I don't know. I think I set him at 40 all the way around." 40. Oh my God. 25, kid. He called me kid, which I love. I love when
Well,
an old
you
guy calls me
use that
kid. I know. I
reference.
call people
Yeah.
kid all the time. But yeah, he's a 25 kid. And I was like, I think 30. But yeah, no, it's crazy the difference in how just my vehicle felt driving it with just stupid ass tire pressure, just being balanced. Yeah, it's crazy.
Or you get guys that come in, this little different, but lack of fuel pressure or something like that, and it's like normal vehicle maintenance, right? They don't change their fuel filter. You
Yeah.
don't change your fuel filter, and then you have a lack of rail pressure. And
I know
you
when to
go-
change my fuel filter. When the
When the-
dash says change fuel filter.
You have no business operating a vehicle. Like, how have you made it 30
Well,
some years?
because I don't really do these things. They're just hilarious to say out loud. There's shit that my wife does. 100% shit
Yeah,
that my wife
okay.
does. Yes.
Because I'm believing you that you do this.
Well, I'm a funny guy.
Yeah, you are. You're funny looking for sure. Dang.
Jeremy, anything else for our listeners?
No, I'm pretty good.
Man, this was so helpful. I really like this episode, guys. This was a lot of fun to do. I'd be excited to do some more maintenance stuff and some more kind of troubleshooting and repair stuff in the future. So you guys are going to be hearing from Jeremy again. I have a good feeling on that. For today, man, this has been Paul Wilson.
And Chris Emke.
Thanks for listening.
Would be better if I wasn't staring at Paul.